right. We're here at Remedial Wellness with the owner, Anna, and we're here to talk about life and business and how to balance them both and how to build something special. So we've been pretty impressed with our time working with Anna so far. The feedback from the clients has been wonderful, and so I said, why don't we sit down together and share some of your business knowledge and some of your background with everybody. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for having us out.
Yeah, I'm excited to be able to share a little bit about my journey, and Philip is great, so sorry.
Uncut and authentic is what we're going for, right? So that's as good as it gets. So
my husband must have FOMO. He's like, oh my gosh, I gotta get in on this.
Wants to be a part of the podcast. We could have gotten him a chair.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I'm excited to share a little bit about my journey, but I could just start a little bit in the beginning and
Let's go.
give you some context about
Perfect.
what it's been like since I opened. And there was a lot of background story of how everything came together before that, but opening has been really fun. So I've been at this new location now since October of 2024, and we have 7 rooms and 2 event spaces here. And what's really interesting is you have this idea and this picture of what it's kind of going to be like, of course. And I think a lot of things that I wasn't really expecting was, you have this idea, okay, so you're going to rent some rooms, you're going to like balance out your income and different things like that. And then now that I'm actually here a few months later, a lot of those things didn't really even happen. So we worked out renting out some rooms, and I was trying to rent out like 3 or 4, and so now I've rented out 1.
As it happens, right? That's business,
as it happens. Yeah, and then but I think what's really exciting on the other front about that is like, so we rented out 1 room to a practitioner. That's really, really great. But without even needing to rent out the rooms, we've been able to establish a lot more with the subcontractors that we have. And so we've really been able to establish a really, really neat culture here.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think that's really exciting. So in the first year, those are like a couple of things that I've experienced, and it's been a lot of fun.
I like that.
So far.
I like that so much. I talk about room rentals a lot because I tell people, are you in the real estate business or are you in the health and wellness business? Because if you're in the real estate business, room rentals is room rentals, right? But I'm not, I don't know anything about real estate, right? And most massage business owners aren't in the real estate business. They want to be in the health and wellness business, right? And so like, it's interesting that for you, you haven't rented out quite the rooms that you expected, and that's like burning the boats almost. It like forced you to go faster on the other stuff, which is so fun.
You really, really I really, really had to burn the boats, because it's like, okay, so I think with the idea of when you have rentals and you have people that are consistently paying you and it's covering the overhead, you can get comfortable.
100%.
And so it forced me to a position where I'm like, okay, this is really, really uncomfy. And for massage therapists that have been in the industry at least a couple of years, they would probably know the summer is always a little bit slower. At least here where I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, where there's the benefits. We have lots of benefits, so most of our clients use benefits. And summer, people go out, they enjoy the heat while we have it because it doesn't last a long time. And then you get into benefit season and everybody comes and uses them. So there's always this dip in income that happens, almost as if maybe some practitioners get amnesia. They forget that it happens and they're like, oh my God, I'm struggling right now. And you should kind of prepare for it. So it's like I braced myself and I knew this would happen. But because we didn't have the rentals and we didn't get comfortable, we really, really had to like hone in on what are we doing, what's working, what's not working, and like really refine in a very, very, very quick way. And yeah, so last month in the slowest time of the year was our highest income month yet.
I love that. That's so good. Totally not what you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And that's great. I mean, it's a testament to many of the things that you've done. And so just on that, so let's go. I know you didn't want to go back so far into the full story, but just so I can say, okay, so we came out here like 6 months ago or something like that, give or take. And you at the time, and I remember it like it was yesterday, had like drywall dust on you and everything was everything was it was under renovation, right? Like it was it was a crazy and hectic time, and now fast forward, you know, there's people downstairs right now getting their treatments, right? What do you think the biggest thing is that you learned in the last, like, since the drywall dust to today?
You know, this is an interesting thing because somebody, like, I'm around a lot of startups and a lot of people that are networking and different things like that. And I think across the board for all business owners is you cannot prepare for everything. Like, it's just not possible to prepare for everything. Sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith and just go out and do it and see the fruits of your labor when the compound effect happens. So before we moved into this place and we had this expansion, we prepared for about a whole year and everything that, you know, licensing and zoning and just getting funding and all of this sorts of stuff. And there was a lot of things that I couldn't control in that process. So, for example, even it's like the drywall was even after this, but we went through this process where I happened to find this location where I'm like, this location is amazing, it's perfect, it's exactly where I want to be, but we didn't have zoning here. And so I'm a little bit naive, like just naive, I just don't know. And I guess people that are like, oh, rezoning, it's a really, really lengthy, incredibly expensive process. If you go ahead and do zoning, it can reasonably be $13,000 to $15,000. So yeah, it's not a cheap process. And so I was like, hey, instead of paying somebody, I'm gonna just do it myself. and this is me being naive. I'm like, whatever, why, if somebody else could do it, I can do it. So and long story short, what ended up happening is that the city made an exception for me, so I didn't end up having to go through the entire process. They kind of like fit in my business so that I could get permission to practice here. But that's probably one of the biggest ones where it's like, okay, am I gonna move in 6 to 8 months once the zoning is done? Or am I gonna move in 1 or 2 months? And how do you prepare for that?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same with the renters. Like, how do you prepare for a potentially sinking ship at any moment where you're coming into the busy season, you know the season is slow. You know that, like, okay, so this is how many funds we have, but they're also starting to dry up. It's like, how much faith is there that, like, it's actually going to come together? And what are the steps that you're taking to move you forward, to move you into the position that you want to get into? So I think that's probably one of the biggest things I've learned is, like, really, really being steadfast, building a really good foundation. If you have a good foundation, then all the other things will come together.
I like that. Yeah, there's a couple strong words: faith, foundation, steadfast. Like, these are serious things. And I think we talked a little bit earlier before this, obviously, about AI and the use of AI. And I think what you said is super, super applicable for right now, because there is now the business planners. I meet them quite often. It's good to have a business plan, right? It's great to have a business plan. And now that you can make a pretty robust business plan in an afternoon, let's call it, right? Yeah. There's a lot of people that think that the business plan assures them success. They've never been able to build a business plan quite like this. Like, you know, ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or any of these can build unbelievable business plans in like an afternoon. And sometimes there's a little bit of, let's call it, faith put in that. Yeah. That is like, I don't know if the business plan guarantees the success, you know? Like, sometimes the business plan is perfect and it carries out the way it is, but I'd say more often than not, it's exactly what you experienced, where it's like surprises, both good and bad, all the way through. Right?
I think there's an aspect where, like, with a business plan, you got to be like realistic of, like, okay, so let's have a budget. Let's have an idea of how much we can spend. So, you know, that you're not going out and spending on, for a massage therapist, maybe too many electric tables. Like, those are the two things that I bought that are higher ticket prices. So, and the tables, I think, were about $2,300. So of all the things we spent, there was that. And then, like, renovations, how reasonably can you spend? We were looking at, when I first moved in here, we have these like dark green carpets, as you can kind of see, but I was kind of like laying up at night being like, what am I going to do with these carpets? They're so hideous. And
I like these carpets.
Oh, well, because this wall used to be like this kind of tan color. So before we painted the walls, like it's like more like this kind of carpet.
Right.
And when it was like that, it looked drabby and old. And I was thinking, I'm like, to do this, how are we going to come up with the money to redo all these floors? Because I know this is the place, but how are we going to make it happen?
Right.
And so I think things like that, it's like the planning is essential, but there also has to be the flexibility of you got to roll with the punches when they come, and also seize the opportunity when it's right. Like it's funny because I took this time to go hiring massage therapists, and there's only one left out of the first hiring pool that I have, and the other two approached me while I was not hiring.
Wow. Yeah, that is interesting.
And they're the best ones.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. Okay, so just to wrap up, so you painted the walls, all the walls, instead of replacing the carpet, right? So the carpet would have been, I mean, this is a large place. That's probably like $15,000 or something like that.
Probably
right?
more.
Yeah, and how much did it cost to paint the walls? Like,
I think it probably cost about $1,000.
And was that mostly burgers for your husband, or was that?
It was actually really intense because we asked somebody. We have really, really high stairwells in here, and we asked somebody because I was nervous that somebody would fall, and we can't use the extenders, like they're just too tall.
Yeah, that's right.
We got a quote, and he said that the stairwells would cost $1,800 to paint, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing it ourselves, and if we fall, oh, too bad. So we did that, and I realized if it cost that much to do the stairwells and the amount of time it took, there was a time when we had 10 of us painting at the same time. This house probably would have taken, we were here day and night, almost every day painting, and like renovating. The other stuff didn't take as long. I think it probably would have been closer to $20,000 in painting.
Wow.
So make really, really good friends, and then convince them all it's a great idea to paint with you. Because it would have been very expensive. It was very time consuming because we have a lot of windows, we have a lot of extra trim, and I was surprised because painting is usually the cheapest of all things. But with that being said, how much the walls were, the flooring would have likely even been much more.
Oh yeah. This would be expensive for sure. Well, it looks amazing. Honestly, it looks like it was planned to be this way, like from the beginning of building it. So, and I'm sure you get a lot of compliments on the space. I'm sure people
all the time. Yeah, it's really great.
I love that. So tell me about your getting people in and the customer experience and what you're trying to establish there, because we get great feedback from everybody that we've brought out, and I'd love to know more about your philosophy on that and just this in general.
I think there's a lot of things and a lot of places where people will have a touch point with the client. So, and it's not just when they come into the room. The touch point starts the moment that they would have their very, very first interaction with you or your company in any sort of capacity. So what does that look like? Is it something that makes them feel calming? Is it something that makes them feel hopeful? Is it something that makes them feel secure or at ease, right? And once they come into the building, do they have a smile on their face? Like, what is the music like? And so I have music that runs through the entirety of the clinic, so there's a feeling of continuity, and so that the therapists are not trying to struggle with their speaker dying, because this happens all the time.
For sure.
Like, how often is your speaker just dying and beeping while your client is kind of trying to sleep, right? And so how do you take all of those things and those aspects and just make them as consistent and set the expectations so that people know exactly what they're getting when they come here. Like when you go to McDonald's and you get a cheeseburger, know the cheeseburger You want that when you go and get treatment.
Yes.
And so outside of that, and outside of those little things that we add in every aspect, like even in our bathrooms, we have little cubbies of like ear swabs and hair ties. How many people ask for hair ties during a massage? A lot. We have deodorant. How many people come and being like, I just came from a run and I'm sweaty. So those are things that then they don't have to think about as much, because like we have everything here. Then they don't have to worry about it. But on the grand scheme and the big picture of what sort of experience we're trying to give to people is, there's a lot of people that are struggling with chronic pain and conditions. I think that it can be a very lonely place. It can be a very depressing place, especially if you feel like you don't have options. So when somebody comes in here, I want them to feel like they can get some more hope again, that they feel like we can guide them, that they can feel safe, and that they have an opportunity to get better, and that they're comfortable here. And outside of that, if they continue to become a part of the clinic, that they feel a sense of community here. So we have a variety of events that we host as well sometimes. We've done like a market, and we've done like a clothing exchange as well, which I know is not as related to massage specifically, but it creates wellness in the community.
Yeah.
So then we're able to get people in the community together, and they can interact in a different way with each other. That's like, okay, maybe I know I struggle with body image, and I know that I don't really get out to do things much, but I feel safe here. And because I feel safe here and there's a community here, I'll come out and I'll participate in this thing that you've created.
Very cool.
So, and that all creates this perception of the client experience, right? From that touch point. And if they never see you again, if somebody asks, hey, have you heard of this place? What do they have to say about that experience? Is it something that you would want to recommend to a friend, right?
Right.
And so curating to that to be a great experience all throughout, I think is important. Yeah.
I love that. One of the things you talked about was a feeling of hope. And I think this is a very interesting point, because a lot of people, there's this thing as humans, and especially as like problem solvers, you're a problem solver, you know, you want to be the solution. You want to be a solution for people, right? And sometimes I think it's easy to forget. And we, you know, same to business in general, right? Like in just about anything is like, you don't necessarily, solving the problem is bringing hope. It might not necessarily mean that the problem is solved that day, but if people can see a trajectory out and they don't feel like they're going down anymore, or even flatlining on whatever it is, right? You know, for the financial advisor, for helping people with their finances, for the health practitioner with their health, right? You know, if they can feel that feeling of, okay, I'm no longer alone and I am on an upward trajectory, that is a solution. You know, that's the first solution, right? The grand solution comes later, right? But there's this desire, I think, as humans to want to create an instant solution for people, and sometimes that comes at the expense of that feeling of hope and that long-term solution, you know? So go ahead.
I talked to somebody once, and he said something really interesting. He was talking about kind of the consultation process and the intake process. And like, let's say you have somebody who has been struggling for a long time, or maybe even something like, let's say it's not chronic pain related. Let's say it's a spa and somebody just really, really needs to relax. But to what extent is that level of stress hindering you in your life? There are so many different layers in that. Let's say somebody's really stressed, but the stress is affecting your parenting and your relationship, and that in turn makes you feel like a bad parent, and all of those things. Now you feel inadequate. That is like that pain point. And for you to then be able to say, okay, what would it mean for me to help you not feel inadequate? And that's probably not exactly how it's going to look on the surface most of the time, but for someone like with stress or with pain, what would it mean for you to then be able to go and go camping again with your children? And those are things that I think are significant for people, because they're like, wow, those are the things, the little things of life that bring me joy that I've been missing.
Right.
Yeah. and
Right.
to be able to give that, it's so significant. It's hugely significant.
I love that.
I think that's why massage can be incredibly powerful, and why we have to create a relationship with our clients. Because okay, you can just go and get a massage, you can just go and have a really, really relaxing, great time, or you can go and like release somebody's shoulder or release somebody's like lower back, and like that's fine. But if you really have a great conversation with that person and you understand their goals and how this impacts their life, you can really create a curated process for them and keep in touch with them of how has this actually impacted you? Have my treatments been helping you to be able to spend more time with your kids, or spend more time in the garden because you weren't able to bend over before to be able to do the weeds and these sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
And I think that really, really makes an impact on people when you are able to create that relationship with them.
I like that. So let's talk then about how you're bringing people out, because obviously, you know, when we're bringing people out, right, it's hard to convey all of that. It just took us 15 minutes or whatnot, right? It's hard to convey all of that in the 4 seconds that somebody will give us on social media, right? So we're bringing people to you, right? We're teeing them up and we're bringing them in the door. Let's talk about, okay, so we try to capture as much of that as possible in the conversations and everything, right? And how we represent your business and all of that. And then they come in the door. Tell me about this, how you're catching them and receiving them and that process.
Are you specifically referring to like what it's like once they're in the door, or do you mean like more on how does that client pool multiply itself?
Oh, both are so good, but I'm thinking most specifically that when we bring people to you, we haven't been able to capture all that you said, because you can't capture that all in an advertisement. It's just not possible, right? Like, you know, you can't, sitting down in a vehicle is totally different than looking at an ad for a vehicle in the newspaper, right?
Yeah.
So like when we bring somebody into you, they don't know all this about the space. They're coming out because, you know, we marketed to them and we brought them out, and they may know a little bit about it and have read your website, but how does their journey start from when they walk in the door to you know, through their first service and then into a regular client?
There's a few things. So if I really kind of just anatomically break down the client cycle and exactly what it looks like when they come in the door. They'll come in the door, we have the music in the lobby area that's all the same throughout, and then we have typically Nadine or somebody will be here to greet them. And I think that's really important, because somebody, like if somebody doesn't greet them right away, like within, I'd probably say 30 seconds, then they're like, am I in the right place?
Right.
Even though the sign is outside, even though they have like the form and the notifications that come in, I think having somebody to greet them is really important. And then if they haven't filled out the form, we give them the form, and we ask them if they want any water, if they need to head to the washroom, and then they can head in with the therapist. I think something that I have very, very specifically emphasized in the actual treatment process, so this is like the greeting process, so to say, then we go into the actual treatment process, is having a very specific time in the intake. So I have been in places before where people say, okay, like here's your massage, just go in and lay down.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so you didn't really ask about like, what does the client want to work on? Do they have any specific concerns, questions, hesitations, anything like that? So I will go in the room with them and I'll say, okay, what brings you in today? And I'll ask them if they want to do something relaxing, if they want to do something therapeutic. And something that I think has actually made a very, very huge impact on me is differentiating if they are coming in to relax or if they're coming in to reduce some sort of symptom, like pain.
Right.
Because to me, there's like 4 camps of people. There's people that only want to relax. There's people that want to relax and also work on their pain.
Right.
There's people who don't care at all about their pain or about relaxing. All they want to do is address their pain no matter what. And there's people that it's like they just want to essentially almost be hurt. Like they just want something really, really deep, dig it out, do whatever you need. It's like, that's it. So it's like identifying where are these people in these camps. And I think the most common are they only want to relax, they want some relaxing, and they also want to work on something. And then it's like they only want therapeutic work. And hopefully that's all clear and easy to understand.
Right.
But taking that time to understand that client. Somebody can come in and say, okay, I have pain in my shoulder and I want to work on that. And then I could say, okay, I'm gonna leave, come back in the room, and then I spent all this time digging into their shoulder, and they're like, but this sucks because they didn't even do the rest of my body. I wanted to relax too. And there's just a little bit of that miscommunication that happens, where somebody's experience is like really great because you actually listened to what they asked. And sometimes they didn't necessarily explicitly ask it. You have to take the guidance to go and ask them so you fully understand what their expectations are. And so sometimes I think this is really where disappointment happens, is you have an expectation and then here's reality. How big is this gap?
Right.
You want to try to create as little bit of this as possible. And the other way, here's their expectation, here's your reality. How do you create this upwards turn
for sure.
that will exceed everything that they expected? And so communicating with them is, I think, really vital to know exactly what they wanted. And so you had asked, like, how do we capture these people and really create that experience? That 5 or 10 minute before the massage is so important.
Right.
It's really, really important. And then aside from that, there's the actual treatment. And being really, really conscious of what are you talking about. This treatment is for the client. It is really, really for the client. And so there's an aspect of we can share our experience and our perspectives and things, but the topic of conversation should never veer off to focus only about ourselves.
Oh, I'd be a terrible massage therapist. Just kidding.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. And I've heard some really, really absurd things that people have done and talked about and different things. And also being cognizant of if someone doesn't want to talk at all.
No, it's a trick, right? Like that's, my father's a counseling therapist and he has people, and God bless him, he's the most patient man in the world. But he has some people where it's like there's professional lines, right? And they want to be his best friend, and they just want to be his best friend, right?
Yeah.
And that's there's the lines here where it's like, okay, well, you have to build a relationship, but there's also a professional, code of conduct or whatever it is, right? It's really tough to manage that.
Yeah. It is tough to manage. And you spend so much time with your clients, you really, really get to know them. But I don't think really clients fully understand all the different things that are reality behind the perfect sheet that you put on the front.
Sure.
And so I don't necessarily think as a therapist you have to appear perfectly to your client, but you might have personal views that are very contradictory to your client views. And I think we really saw this during COVID. Like, this was a huge topic of discussion, especially amongst massage therapists, about if you're vaccinated or not. Would a client then come to see you? So is this something you're discussing on the table? And so I'm sure anybody that was massaging at that time would have experienced that process. No matter what your beliefs were, it affected everybody. And so being really, really nuanced. And then after the actual treatment part is, what does it look like after the treatment? Do you rebook somebody? Do you ask them if they want to rebook? Is it easy to take their payment? Do you offer direct billing? Like, this all creates an ease of experience for them. And then is there any sort of follow-up after? And is that something that you want to incorporate or not? And so some people, they do text out after, maybe after a day or two, and say, hey, how was your treatment? Is there anything that you have to say about that? And just, in that capturing is really, really being super intentional about that experience. Like I had mentioned earlier, I think it really makes a big difference. If only just the massage was the entirety of the experience, I think it would make it a lot easier. But most people, they might spend after, let's say they have a 60-minute treatment, but in entirety they might have 2 hours of experience with you in accumulated time. And is that pleasant?
Yeah.
Is that a good time when they receive a text message from you? Are they pleasantly surprised that they're like, wow, this person actually cares about my well-being? Or are they annoyed because you're spamming them with a bunch of stuff that they don't want to see?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and some people, if they get one text, they're like, take me off your list. If they probably accidentally text their wives that, take me off your list. Oh wait, sorry, I'll be home at 5, right? But some people are difficult like that. But yeah, broadly speaking, do they have a positive feeling associated to seeing your business name, your name, these sorts of things, right? It's important. So on to marketing. Tell me about, so we've been working together since you opened, right? Obviously you do some other things, as every business owner does, to get people in the door. But how's your experience with us been? How tell me a bit about that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. I could say all the best things.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think what I really love is, because I've done a lot of different marketing, I think what really stands out to me is that you get clients right away. I think this is really, really important, because there's tons and tons of marketing out there where you spend a whole ton of money, and do you even see one client? No. You don't potentially ever see a client. And I think that's something that's really tough. So I love that there's actually bookings coming in. It's a very, very easy process, because you guys put the bookings in for me, which is really lovely, because when I'm treating, I can't do it, right? So that's like a big problem that's solved. Or you have to have an administrative person all the time. So that's like an added cost on that. So that is a really, really nice thing. And also, I think our communication is really good. When I have things that I'm like, okay, these are things that we could work on, how can we refine this? I think you guys, and you specifically also, are really, really lovely at taking feedback and how do we make this work for my business, and how do we make this work in longevity? And I think that's been really, really great. So definitely, I would highly recommend you guys. I think that every massage business probably should have you guys around. So yeah.
Thank you for that. That means a lot. We've really enjoyed working with you, and really enjoy the feedback that we get, and we're excited. You can tell, you can feel it in your heart, right? When you're bringing people out to a business and you're excited to see what they have to say about that business, right? And so you've got, you know that they're going to come back with good feedback, right? Or you're kind of a little okay, we're going to bring people. We need the feedback. It's important to bring the feedback because the business owner needs to hear it. But sometimes, that can be a little bit of a balance. So we're always excited to bring people to you. And I think we've brought, I don't know, something like a few hundred clients now. We're, it's at a good pace to it. So
it's a good pace. It's a steady, consistent pace. I find is even a little bit surprising, because you'd almost think that maybe seasonally there might be a little bit of a more up and down, but I think the amount of bookings is pretty steady, which is really, really nice, because then with some of the organic referrals, different things like that can be very unpredictable. So this is a bit more predictable on when things are coming in. And also, kind of how you said, with the feedback, not everybody appreciates the feedback. Not everybody can have that communication where it's the open dialogue. So sometimes people can get a little bit offended. Definitely.
It's hard to hear things. I mean, we all have our blind spots and our egos and stuff, and sometimes it's hard to hear things, right? It's a tricky thing. But if you're obsessed with the client and the way that the client, you mentioned about us hearing feedback from you hearing feedback from the client, as long as you're focused on the right goal, typically it works out. Feedback makes you better and makes you stronger and makes everything better, right? So we're actively trying to make things better, all the time, right? It doesn't stop. I literally think about this business and dream about it I wake up and think about massage therapists I talked to 8 months ago. I'm not kidding. It's
Oh my
crazy because
God.
it's, I've talked to
Do you
probably.
have that with clients?
Yeah,
Yeah,
isn't
I
that-
have it with
isn't that a wild
clients
thing?
too. Yeah.
People have a hard time, I think, understanding the business owner like that. It's always there. I'm
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
thinking about
It's all
it. Right?
consuming.
It's so interesting. But so any closing thoughts? Any last minute pieces of advice, or if you could go back 3 years ago, what would you tell yourself?
Well, this is interesting. So many thoughts and so little thoughts all at once. I think for anybody that's just starting out, I think, or somebody who's thinking about in the future, I want to have an expansion. How do I go about this process?
Sure.
I myself was very, very established before I opened this large business. And so I think this really will impact the success of this business. And the reason why is because I'm not starting from the floor. I was in a chiropractic office before, and in the chiropractic office, I was kind of piggybacking off of what he was doing. And so maybe some people might find this offensive that, hey, I would go and take my clients with me, but I was renting a room from him. So it's not like I was like stealing clients from his business or anything like that. That's not what I'm referring to at all. Go and find somebody that you can partner with in a capacity where you can work alongside them. You're working on the same client, but you do different things. And then if you go and decide to have an expansion, go and take those clients with you and make it as easy of a transition as possible. When I moved from very, very close by. I started announcing that I was moving 6 months before I started moving, so that everybody knew that it was coming. And then when I actually moved, I sent out a couple of emails into my new booking site so that they knew where I am. And so I tried to make that transition as unclunky as possible. But if you're new and you're like, hey, I want to open a big business, I would say hold off just a little bit, establish your own schedule, understand the industry, understand the clientele in your area or the people that you want to work on, and then go ahead and open something for yourself. And I think that would help practitioners be more successful if that's something that they want to aspire to.
I love it. And that comes back to what you were saying earlier, foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You used that word a few times through it. I think it's a key, absolutely key thing, and it's worked out well for you here. It's been great. We love this business. We'll just shamelessly give a little plug here, because it's like I'm on like a really well established podcast where they bring out water bottles and stuff. This felt so official. So thank you for having us out. It's been great working with you. I enjoyed this conversation today, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Thank you.